Hello, welcome to the Analyst Inside Cricket with me, Simon Hughes.
Me, Simon Mann.
And we're joined again by Matt Prior, the former Sussex and England wicketkeeper batsman. Matt, good to see you. How are you?
Very well, thanks, guys. How are you? I hope you've been enjoying this weather we've been having. It's been feeling like we've been in South Africa or Australia, looking at some of the cricket grounds as well, looking a bit dry.
Actually, you're right. I played golf with my daughter a week ago. Of course, I lost. But it was like being on the African savannah in Bushy Park and around the Hampton Court area. I mean, extraordinary. And well, hopefully the cricket grounds have survived. I know a lot of club grounds have struggled a bit, haven't they? But there's still a bit of greenness on the squares, the club grounds I've seen. And I think there'll still be a bit of greenness at Headingley. The groundsman there, Richie Robinson, lovely man, actually a very talented cricketer in the past as well. He absolutely floods the Headingley surface, the pitches for the test matches quite a few days before, and he's confident that it's not going to be too dry and desert-like. Maybe a bit quick as well. I mean, the Headingley pitch, we'll talk about this a bit more later, but the Headingley pitch has been quick the last couple of years, actually. I mean, Mark Wood, when I saw him bowl against Australia in 23 there, I mean, that's the quickest bowling I've ever seen. Johnny Bairstow taking it above his head halfway back to the boundary.
It does seem extraordinary that we've had the driest summer, the hottest summer since 1976, and we get to the Test match series against Pakistan, and England are going to play, it seems, no frontline spinner. It just seems kind of counterintuitive, but I suppose if you can control the conditions by putting lots of water on the square and getting absolutely the pitch you want for your type of bowling, then that's where we are, aren't we? I mean, you think of this sort of weather, you think inevitably of spinners coming into the game. My mind also goes back to, you think about the sort of pitches that England want to prepare for this series. My mind goes back to the last Pakistan-England series when they had those big fans out in Multan and Rawalpindi to try to dry the surface out. I mean, Pakistan, they absolutely laid all their cards out on the deck, and the ball spun and they won the series. They came back from 1-0 down after England scored 800. So I presume England are going to try to return the favour in terms of not producing spinning pitch, but producing pitches that are good for batting and where there is some pace and bounce if they possibly can. Although you can't really control Lords, can you? They don't seem to be able to control what they produce there.
Well, that's true. And I mean, talking pitches briefly, again, talking to Richie Robinson, the groundsman at Headingley, he has had those pitches, or the pitches have been relayed fairly recently. And that's why they have the pace and bounce, which they really do. And Lords desperately needs relaying. 25 years old, those pitches are, and they just haven't had the opportunity to do so. So it does show the difference in relaying pitches. So look, we're on August the 17th today. Last week, it was the week when Manchester Supergiants won their first ever 100 tournament yesterday at Lords. We'll talk a bit about that. Also, the week in which Australia lost to Bangladesh at home for the first time in their history. A dramatic win for Bangladesh in Darwin. So we'll talk a bit about that. And obviously Pakistan back at home, they beat the county select 11 by 7 wickets in their warm-up for the test match. So that was the week that's gone, and we'll talk about all those things. I just want to mention this week, and the 17th of August in particular actually, is the 50th anniversary of Michael Holding's epic 14 wickets at the Oval in 1976 to bowl England out and seize the series 3-0 and really make England grovel. And that was the subject of the interview I did with Michael Holding last week. So look out for that on this podcast. A really interesting interview with Michael Holding about 1976 and about that test match and about discovering reverse swing actually in that test match at the Oval in 76. And just the whole kind of way that the West Indies team developed from that series and became this almost invincible force for a number of years. Also, the 17th of August is the 100th anniversary of Jack Hobbs's epic 100 in the 1926 Oval Test, when he put on 172 with Herbert Sutcliffe, and England won the Ashes in 1926 at the Oval for the first time for 14 years, which was also a seminal moment in cricket history. And I recorded an interview with David Frith, the eminent cricket writer, last week, talking about that match. He's got the the team photo framed on his kitchen wall, actually, that he bought at an auction, a few years ago. The team picture of England's 1926 team. Some classic names in that. Hobbs, Sutcliffe, Harold Larwood was in that team. Rhodes, the man who took the most first-class wickets in history. Do you know how many wickets he took, Rhodes? 4,207. 4,207 first-class wickets, by far more than anyone else, of course. Carried on playing, got recalled in that Test match, age 48, and took 4 wickets and helped England win. Some classic names.
So,
anyway.
so what you're telling us, Yoz, is there's still time for Jimmy Anderson?
Yes, absolutely. Well, yes, and we'll come to that because Mohamed Abbas, who bowls was slower than Jimmy Anderson, and he's in his mid to late 30s. Of course, he's still in the Pakistan side, bowling at 77 miles an hour. So, there is space for those sort of good nagging military medium paces, absolutely. Anyway, so I recorded that interview with David Frith, and that is on our Substack site. The Analyst Inside Cricket on Substack. A really lovely interview with David Frith, some Pathé footage as well. I'll send you some clips of it, Matt. You can have a look at how they kept wicket in those days. It's hilarious. It's brilliant, actually. It's brilliant stuff. So just look out for that as well. The Analyst Inside Cricket on Substack, and that interview with David Frith. He knew some of the players in that series. Not actually, he didn't see the match because he's only 89. I say only, but he did know that some of the players in later life. So it's quite an interesting story, that, actually. And that was 100 years ago. So, quite a kind of an interesting date, the 17th of August. So lots to sort of consume. Where are we going to start? The 100, maybe?
Go on then.
Well, so Manchester Supergiants won the 100. Matt, you got 2 sons, or you've got a number of sons, but 2 who are interested in cricket. But you said they weren't that fussed about the 100.
Yeah, I've found it quite fascinating. I'm not anti the 100 per se. I'm sort of watching with interest to see how it goes. I think my view is if enough money is thrown at something, in the end it will work. But yeah, as you say, two of my sons are mad keen cricketers. One of them, both in the Sussex pathway. They'll watch YouTube clips of Ashes footage, and any Test series that's on, we'll always talk about it. And I sort of spoke to them yesterday and noticed that they haven't once watched the 100. They don't really have a favourite team. And really haven't had much interest in it. And I asked them why, and they said it's boring. And I thought, wow, okay, well, that, 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, that's the demographic that they're trying to pitch to, right? And bring not just women and families, but kids into the game. And they just weren't interested. Now, they've grown up with cricket, so I don't know about you guys, but I find the 100 scoreboard really confusing. But I think that's just because I'm old-fashioned and so used to it being a different way. Keeping up with actually the game, who's ahead of the game, who's not. Maybe the change for people that are so used to, the formats as they were, the scoring as they were, maybe it's harder for them to kind of get into it. So potentially a good thing for new people to cricket, but those that are used to how it's been, the old fuddy-duddies like me, it's not as gripping. But I mean, what have you guys have been there? You've been watching the games. How's it sort of come across? Do you think it's been a success?
Matt, before we get onto that, what did they mean by boring? Did they elaborate on that? What was there any more than just boring? What did they find boring?
I think they feel like it's the same game played however many times in the tournament. There's not a lot different from game to game. It's sort of whack, 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 end up with a score, chase a score, and there aren't any
nuances.
You think of a day of Test cricket, you've got passages of play that you might have to block it for an hour when the ball's going around, and then the batsmen get on top of it and smash it, and it kind of keeps you captivated. Or even 2020, it's being broken down now into different periods of play. I mean, there's a risk of 2020 that it's sort of just the same thing on repeat day after day. And I think their view is sort of once you've watched 100 game, you've kind of watched them all a little bit. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I think
whatsoever.
it makes a lot of sense actually, and I suppose is it to do with? I mean, obviously it's a shorter format than T20, so you can't waste any time. You've just got to basically try and hit balls and sixes, haven't you? I mean, there's no real finesse. You know, Tim Seifert yesterday got 76 in 38 balls or something. I mean, he was trying to lash every single ball. The Kiwi opener for Manchester Supergiants. I mean, it's sort of it becomes a bit repetitive, and I wonder if the way the game is marketed as well, this sort of hyped up competition, does that infect the players as well, and they just feel they've got to go for it every ball rather than playing a kindly more select game. I mean, there is little time in the 100, isn't there, to play a different way, I suppose, and boundaries are brought in. The boundaries are ridiculous in some of the games. So I guess batters are just deciding, well, it's not far to hit it for six. I might as well try and do it every ball.
I think it's a really good point, Yoz. And what's that? And as I say, I'm not anti short format cricket or the 100. It's just interesting to watch how things happen. And when someone scores a 30 ball 100 for the first time, everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing! How exciting!" When it becomes normal, and batsmen striking at over 200 is becoming the norm, right? It then does it potentially become a bit boring because the bowler is just cannon fodder, literally just running up to get smacked further and further and further into the crowd. And does it actually, that lack of competition between bat and ball, yes, watching fours and sixes is fun for a period of time, but actually, you've got to have a competition. You've got to, and also the skill set required. Amazing ability. I watch these batsmen, and I'm in awe of how they're hitting sometimes 90-mile-an-hour Yorkers, digging it out and hitting over extra cover for six. I watched a shot that Harry Brook played the other day, I think at Headingley, where he sort of scooped it off stump, sliced it.
Yeah, it's called the bacon slicer, that shot now, and he's practiced it as well. I mean, I'll put that on the YouTube clip of this podcast. Actually, he's practiced that shot, and he actually slices it, doesn't he, deliberately over third man? Yeah.
And I think, watching shots like that for the first time, you think, wow, that's incredible. Also, some of the fielding that you watch in that definitely short format cricket has some of the catches where guys are diving over the rope, throwing it back into the field of play, and then diving back into the field of play. Like, there's some really, really exciting, fascinating stuff coming out of short format, cricket and the 100. But the competition of bat versus ball, is it maybe getting a little bit boring now?
Well, and quite a lot of the games now are played on hybrid pitches as well.
Yeah,
which I think evens out the bounce and the consistency. It means you don't get any kind of wear on the pitch. I mean, not that you're going to get much wear, I suppose, on a 100 pitch, but in one game. But it means that the pitch is very uniform. The pitches are very uniform generally, rather than having those kind of variations that you get up and down the country. So, I mean, that's it's an interesting point. I mean, one other thing that the numbers have been down a bit, haven't they? Crowds have been down a bit. Some grounds worse than others. I think Cardiff's done pretty well, but some of the others haven't been so good.
The only ground that's up has been Cardiff, whereas everywhere else has been down. 5% down the crowd, which seems surprising when you think about the weather that we've had. I mean, it may be that people say it's actually too hot to sit and watch it. I don't know, but you'd think the weather we've had, not much competition in terms of other sporting events going on. You'd think actually this was the perfect window. And you look at the sides, and they all look quite strong. I think you look down there 1 to 11, you think, well, those are pretty good and competitive sides with lots of star players.
Definitely. I mean, the prices have gone up a bit. Ticket prices have gone up a bit. I know that's put some people off. I mean, just one other thought about the 100 is when the IPL started, one of the things they really focused on, and obviously they were creating 8 new teams, was making sure that a local famous hero played for their local team. So Sourav Ganguly, a kind of great Bengali from Calcutta, played for Calcutta Knight Riders, and Rahul Dravid and Anil Kumble, absolutely steeped in Karnataka and Bangalore, played for the Royal Bangalore Challengers. Sachin Tendulkar played, of course, played for Mumbai. So they locked into local heroes, and we haven't really done that so much in England. I mean, it seems odd to see Joe Root playing for Welsh Fire, or Liam Dawson, perhaps at Hampshire through and through, playing for Manchester Supergiants and others like that. So they sort of jumbled up the players a bit confusingly.
I think the point I would make, and I have an open mind about this. I can see the value of the 100. You can see it in terms of the future of the game, the television rights, and the money it generates, and the interest, and regenerating interest, and bringing families and children into the game, all that sort of thing. Just from my point of view, I find when I watch it, I don't care who wins, and I think I've always grown up watching sport, caring who wins. And that's kind of ingrained into the sort of fabric of my sport watching soul, if you like. And it may be that the reason for that is there's no West Country team. So I think, if there was a West Country team, I would be more engaged, and that there isn't. But I do watch it, and so you watch it from a different. I find myself watching it from a different aspect. I think about what does the broadcast look like? What are the commentators doing, and that sort of thing. So I end up watching it for that sort of reason rather than actual. Yeah, I'm really engaged in the game. And also, one thing I noticed about the final last night, I switched it on. I didn't watch it all because I was busy yesterday and I was also working somewhere else. But I felt, as I watched the last quarter of the game, the atmosphere was very sort of passive. So, you watch an IPL game and people are really involved, engaged, and it felt like a very neutral crowd. And okay, it wasn't a great game, but there wasn't that sort of feverish excitement that perhaps you used to get in, say county finals at Lords back in the day. And that's a similar thing, isn't it? Because you've got a big crowd at Lords, really big crowd last night. But it felt everyone was just sort of sitting back and just sort of taking it in. Did anyone really? How many people in the ground really cared that Manchester Supergiants won the game? And that would have been my observation.
Of course, that's a problem, isn't it? With when you don't know who's in the final. I mean, one of the great things about
exactly.
those old NatWest finals, going back into the dark ages, that the whole of Somerset would travel up if they got into the final, wouldn't they? Kind of because they could plan it sort of several weeks in advance, and it was a sort of Somerset, cider country takeover kind of thing. So that's different. I mean, actually, just to related to that, Matt. I mean, you're in Sussex. You're Sussex through and through. Your probably kids are as well. Do you think you're detached from the 100 because you haven't got a team in it?
I think, listening to Simon there, I was thinking back to the question, did the boys tell you why they're not really that interested? They don't follow a team. You think any kids or any sports fans, really, you ask, what's your football team? And they passionately tell you it's Manchester United or it's Everton or it's, my dad followed West Ham United, so I brought up, following West Ham United or whatever it is. But there's a passion behind it. And I don't think yet the ECB or the marketing teams or whoever it is have been able to really grab people's fanaticism and relationship with the teams. I think there's also the change, Manchester Supergiants, change of ownership, it's becoming less.
Change of name as well.
English, exactly. Does that affect people's sort of loyalty or, again, fanaticism around it? But yeah, you're absolutely right, Yoz. We're Sussex through and through in this house, and I suppose our team would be the Southern Brave, but we've got to go to the Rose Bowl. And Hampshire being our neighbours and sworn enemies, it feels a bit counterintuitive to suddenly go there to watch a game. My boys don't follow a team. And I asked them which team they would. And I think they'd potentially be tempted to follow teams based on the individuals that are playing in it. They're a huge Joe Root fan. So wherever Joe Root is playing, that's the team they'll want to follow, rather than having a real loyalty to one franchise or the other.
Well, there we are. There's some food for thought for the organisers anyway for next year. I mean, it is early days, I suppose, in the 100 in terms of getting allegiances, but certainly this year has been a bit a bit disappointing, I suppose, even though the standard's been pretty good. What about what about Australia and Bangladesh then? Just a brief kind of enlightenment on that. I mean, does it suggest that England missed a trick last winter?
I think that's what the Australians have been saying, isn't it? That's been one of their reactions. Go on, Matt.
I mean, as if you were just I think we were just about getting over it. Like, well, I nearly got over the missed opportunity in Australia. And then Bangladesh turn up and don't just beat them, like thrash them, just with playing some decent cricket. And you look at the lineup, the Aussie team as well, because I immediately was like, oh, the Aussies, blooding some youngsters, or they're playing a second team, or there's a whole load of injuries, like England had, or the Australian team that England played against. Oh no, it was like, Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, Lyon, Smith, and you're just going, oh my goodness, oh my, how did we miss that opportunity? And you don't want to go backwards, but always fun to watch Australia struggle a little bit. That always gives you a bit of pleasure. But I don't think we can say too much, because English cricket's hardly in the greatest spot right now. So,
No, well, true.
but we're still allowed a little bit of pleasure when the old enemy goes
Is
down.
Darwin nearer to Bangladesh than it is to Sydney? No, that's a silly question. But I mean, it is very far. It's virtually into Southeast Asia, isn't it, Darwin? Perhaps they felt at home. I mean, it's tropical there, of course. I've never been to Darwin, actually. Have either of you ever been to Darwin?
I've landed there. I've not stepped foot on Darwin soil, if you see what I mean. Just to give it some context, Yoz. So Bangladesh played, they won 10 out of 70 away test matches. And they've only had 28 wins since they came into Test cricket in 2000 out of 160 Test matches. So, I mean, that is some achievement. But they have actually beaten Australia in 2 of their last 3 games against them, because they beat them in Bangladesh a few years back, a close game by 20 runs. I think it was 2017. I mean, and also, the other thing as well, incredible thing, was they bowled out for 54 in the lead-up, in a warm-up game. They were bowled out for 54 by a guy who'd only played one first-class game, and he got a whole heap of wickets. I was just, is it a freak result? I don't know.
Well, I mean, but there are freak results going on everywhere, aren't there? I mean, India losing to Ireland, for instance.
In a T20 match.
And then obviously England losing to New Zealand at home. I mean, that's perhaps less outrageous, but it seems like there's a sort of evening up of some of these contests. And, well, in the case of Australia, I mean, they haven't really reinvented, have they? I mean, they've relied on that same group of players for, I don't know how long, probably a decade nearly. And are they showing their age a bit, really? The bowlers still, I mean, they didn't pick Scott Boland, did they, actually, ironically, and picked Hazelwood instead, but they didn't do the business this time. I mean, I suppose it shows that even a team as elite as Australia, you have to keep sort of regenerating, don't you, and looking to evolve all the time, rather than just relying on the old stages to do it every time. I mean, England have gone to the other extreme, kind of bringing in people out of nowhere, but there is that sort of feeling the Australians have been slightly resting on their laurels, haven't they?
I think there's a slight bit of concern for this next. I think certainly when I was over in Australia in the winter, and I don't know if you guys heard the same thing, but it's kind of, there is a lot of worry that the next sort of group of players, there isn't a great deal coming through, certainly within the bowl. I think the age group below that, the sort of 18, 19s, under 17s, I think there's quite a lot of excitement about a few batsmen and certainly a couple of fast bowlers. But this next crop, I think they're really, and I saw actually Brett Lee had started doing some kind of documentary on where have all the fast bowlers gone in Australia, like what's happened to the fast bowlers, because they always produced quick bowlers and very good fast bowlers, and they seem to not be now, which is a really interesting point.
Well, is it to do with? I mean, I'm just guessing here a little bit, but it's such a sort of regulatory country, isn't it? And in England, bowlers at 15 are only allowed to bowl 6 overs and 8 overs and stuff. I mean, maybe they have the same situation there. And the only way you're ever going to get quicker is just to bowl, isn't it? And bowl lots. And maybe the people, the regulations on young players is too stringent to allow someone to come through who can bowl, 90 miles an hour. Look, anyway, I mean, it's certainly a fantastic day for Bangladesh, isn't it? And it's brilliant that they've won that game. They've got a second test coming up now in a few days, so it'd be interesting to see what happens there actually. And it's great for the world game. They're 9th in the ICC World Test Championship, and they've beaten number 1, so that keeps the jeopardy going.
I think it's a good point as well. Is that I think we'll look at the Australians and sort of what's going on there, but credit has to go to Bangladesh for playing good cricket as well. They had to bat second as well, bowled Australia out firstly, and then went and scored big over 400 plus first innings total, and then bowled Australia. It's almost perfect Test match cricket once you've lost the toss. So fair play to them and their staff and their team for going away and doing a lot of good work.
The Australian technology is not working either, is it? Because Steve Smith got nicked, caught behind, not given. He admitted he hit it afterwards. The technology didn't work. He said, I got lucky.
Do you know what? I think I saw that because it was on Stuart Broad's Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
I think he reposted something of Smith admitting to nicking. Obviously after all those years of Broad getting grief for not walking when he sort of edged one to slip. I found it quite ironic and funny that Smith was sat at a press conference going, "Oh yeah, mate, I hit it." Didn't go anywhere. Like, no worries. It's all good.
All right. Well, listen, we'll take a pause and we'll talk about England against Pakistan at Headingley after the break. So we've been doing this podcast now since 2017, and we're approaching our 1,000th episode. And really, it's just been Simon Mann and me, and obviously more lately Matt Prior as well, producing these videos together. We haven't really had any help, although now I'm glad to say we have a Charlotte to help us produce. But I've certainly been someone who wanted a bit of help, and I didn't know where to go for it. So what do you think I did, Simon?
Well, I don't know, Jos. Did you use some modern technology, possibly?
Well, I got recommended Claude.ai by my daughter, actually. And she said, Claude.ai is fantastic, Dad. Just try it. Do some stuff. So I used it for research, and it was really helpful. And then I thought, right, now we're doing podcasts, we're doing videos, we're doing written stuff as well. We're doing, posts on Instagram, etc. They're all kind of being spread around the place, all in the ether. How do we bring it all together? We create a website. So I tasked Claude.ai with building a website, theanalystinside.cricket.com, and in the afternoon, it did it for me. I asked it lots of questions. I made lots of suggestions. It came back with some ideas and some concepts and some templates, and within an afternoon, it was all built at the cost of, well, let's say a takeaway fish and chips with mushy peas on the side, about 20 quid a month. Is all it costs for a Claude subscription. It's brilliant. Check it out. It has totally reorganized and recalibrated my life, certainly. Try Claude Cowork today. Claude.ai/analyst.
Right, let's move on to England, Pakistan. We've been looking forward to this series for quite a while now, ever since the end of the New Zealand series and all the changes that have happened. Ben Stokes going, Brendan McCullum going, Stephen Fleming coming in, although he's not going to be in charge for the next 3 test matches, and Joe Root back as captain. So 3 test matches, Headingley, Lords and Birmingham. The weather is just going off a little bit. It will be cooler in Leeds this week. What do we think? I mean, my feeling about this test series, certainly perhaps the start of it, is what an opportunity for Pakistan. They've been playing red ball cricket. They've just come off the back of 2 test matches in the West Indies. They won 1 and they lost 1. They've had a warm-up game. England are in a bit of turmoil, aren't they, after what happened during the New Zealand series. It's all changed for them. And they're coming off the back of the 100 as well. Most of the players, nearly all the players in the squad are coming off the back of the 100. So they've been playing white ball fast cricket, and for some of them it's just a 2-day break. They'll actually have to practice leading into Headingley at Wednesday. So on Sunday, Ben Duckett, Atkinson and Tongue played in the final. Friday, Lawrence, Cass and Brooke played in the Eliminator. And then last Wednesday, Root, Cox and Cook played. So there's not much of a turnaround time for England. So is this actually a really good opportunity for Pakistan, or will England justify their pre-series tag as favourites? Discuss.
Well, I think from my perspective, the turnaround time, I agree that it is a huge opportunity for Pakistan. And, England might be favourites, but I really think it's going to be a tough series. Pakistan, whenever we prepped to play a series against Pakistan, you didn't know which Pakistan was going to turn up. And the same squad, same players on one day could be literally the best team in the world. And the very next day, an absolute disaster. And that sort of inconsistency was actually quite hard to play against, because you couldn't, play against the Aussies, you know what you're going to get. Play against South Africa, you know what you're going to get. Pakistan, you weren't quite sure. So that's one thing that England will have to look out for. I think the point around the 100 and having 2 days to turn it round, it is tough to do, but it is doable. And players, I think, particularly now, are so used to changing formats and having to change formats quite quickly. So the question is, I suppose, how do they do it? Well, for me, one of the ways I did it was literally the change of kit. You're changing from when you empty your cricket bag, you take your blue pads out or your black pads out, your red pads out. And just the fact that you're packing your whites, you're packing your white pads, while you're packing your bag, you're doing as much mental prep before you've even got to a training ground. You're literally, and I would have completely different kit for short format cricket and test match cricket. And that was done on purpose. So it shortened the turnaround time, because let's be honest, it's a mental switch as much as a technical. These guys have hit and bowled thousands and thousands of cricket balls. They know what they need to do, and you can go into a net. You can have a couple of days of prep. Work on your drills and tactics and strategy. Batting. You may have been batting on leg stump for the 100, giving yourself freedom to swat the ball away. Okay, now you're changing your guard. You're coming back onto middle. You're looking to go down the wicket more, leave well outside off stump. That's as much a mental switch as it is a technical switch. And I honestly think it starts when you pack your bag and change your kit. It is a challenge. I think potentially tougher in some ways for bowlers. And you think of, I'll always look at the sort of batters and wicket keepers, but for a bowler, it would be interesting to know how difficult that is, particularly the shortest format of the game, where you aren't really meant to bowl the same ball twice. Every delivery is a different delivery. You change up, slow ball, bouncer, Yorker, wide Yorker. And then you go into a test match where really you want to be able to, what is a Bass going to do? He's going to hit a 50p piece for a spell, and his changes will be subtle, with either off the seam or swinging away, swinging in, whatever it is. But there's a real rhythm to it and a consistency that's needed to bowl in long format. And I think that switch must be quite difficult. So potentially tougher for the bowlers, in my view, than the batters. But it is something England will have to be aware of.
It's a really good point about how you change your kit. England's experiences post the 100, the last couple of years, haven't been great at switching mindset. Admittedly, they've been going into 50-over cricket rather than Test cricket straight away in the past couple of years after the 100.
Doesn't that make it even harder then, Niels? Because you're playing with a white ball, you're going from white ball to red ball.
Yeah, well, it does make it harder. I agree. In a way, I think it does. The thing about 50-over cricket, I suppose, is that you're playing with two white balls, and you are playing often against. I remember when England played Australia a couple of years ago at Headingley, soon after the 100, and it was Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc and Hazelwood and people like that playing for Australia. and but serious bowlers and people, someone like Phil Salt trying to kind of hit them off their length in the first 5-6 overs as he would do in the 100, and it was just a totally different type of cricket. I don't know. I can see your point, Matt, about bowlers having to have the harder transformation, but Ben Duckett, yesterday walked across his stumps and rammed someone up for the first time I've ever seen it. Actually, he rammed someone up the pavilion steps at Lord's. So it bounced over the rope, and Ben went up the steps. So someone must have left the gate open, or I don't know, it bounced over the gate or something. And then suddenly he's got to deal with 3 days later, he's got to deal with Mohammed Abbas nipping it around and so on. So it's challenging. And England's batting order, Amelia Gay's got a pair in that game against the Pakistan 11, and he's only played 3 tests, and Jordan Cox at number 3, he's only played 1. So there are 4 tests between them, the top 3, with 2 of the top 3.
I think that's another good point. When you play a number of short, so okay, like the 100 competition, right? As a batsman, you're not scoring big hundreds, are you? So if you have you could face 20 balls and score 45 and walk off to a standing ovation, but you've only faced 20 balls, right? And you're just having a whack. So you kind of go into a test series without the volume of runs that gives you a lot of confidence. When you go into a test match having just scored 180 or something like that, having batted time, that definitely gives you the sort of mental upper hand, and the England batsmen will be very aware of that. I mean, they've got the most experienced guy in the dressing room, captaining, in Joe Root, who will be talking to that batting unit, and I'm pretty certain saying, right, guys, let's not shy away from this. Let's be aware of it, be aware of the challenge. Okay, how do we best counter that? What do we all need as individuals and as a batting group to ensure that we don't go into this test match with the wrong mentality? But it is 2 days is not a great deal of time, but I hope that certainly mentally they would be able to switch it around.
What about Root back as captain then? He has captained England 65 times, won 27, lost 27, 11 draws. He had that run right at the end of his last captaincy tenure where they won 1 match in 17. It's now 1 match in 18 now, of course, because he took over the New Zealand 1 test match at the Oval when Ben Stokes was banned. I noticed actually just before that run of poor results, England had a very good run where they went something like 11 matches without defeat. And Joe Root has been talking the last few days since he's got the captaincy about the impact of COVID, and the COVID impacted everybody, and it had dramatic impacts on some people's lives. And so to hear that sometimes hear the players talking about, we were in the bubble and it was difficult and all that, you think, well, hold on, we were kind of all in it together in a way, but obviously it did have an impact, and they did have to do it a lot. So in a way, can we? I mean, Stuart Broad tried to do it with the last Ashes series. It was kind of like it didn't really count. Does that really count? Does that reflect on his captaincy? And actually, this time he's learned. Watching Ben Stokes skip of the side, 4 years since then, he says, I'm a completely different person and player now. Does it feel like the right time for him again, or is it actually really just an expedient move because the other options are not that good?
I think that he's played enough cricket now, and has enough respect from everyone that if he didn't want to do the job, he wouldn't have taken the job. It was interesting hearing Stokes talk about him actually, and he said the problem with Joe is that he's going to put everyone else first. He's going to put, his worry was that Root, he's going to put that England cricket team first and everyone else in that dressing room first, and we're going to lose Joe Root, the batsman, because mentally it is so taxing. But Rooty would have obviously thought about all of this. And I think you're right. I think the opportunity to captain England outside of those COVID restrictions and all of those, other challenges is hard enough, let alone when you've got all of that to deal with as well. And I think that his first statement, I was going to say, I hope that he just comes in and does it the Joe Root way. I hope that he comes in with a fearlessness that he's earned, the right to captain, just like Stokes did, whether we agree it was the right or wrong. He came in, he said, this is how we're going to play. It's my team. He grabbed it by the scruff of the neck. And I think one of the really good signs for me is one of Root's first comments or first moves has been to stop this ridiculous curfew and drinking bans. That I don't think is a decision that he would have made the first time round as captain, because he would have been worried about how it looked. He would have been worried about upsetting the ECB potentially. There's so much that you're dealing with. And he's come in and he's gone, I know what's right for this cricket team. If I'm going to lead it, it needs to be done a certain way. And the first thing I'm doing is getting rid of that ridiculous ban. I mean, it's quite a statement. Again, whether we agree or disagree with the decision, it's a hell of a statement from him as captain to say, this is what I want and this is how I want it to be in the dressing room. So for me, it's a very, very strong start from Joe. And I think the players around him he would have garnered a huge amount of respect from the dressing room.
Yoz, we disagree, don't we, over the curfew? I think it's ludicrous. And actually, what Root has said basically is, if you're playing for England, you need to be mature enough to kind of sort it out for yourself and to make the right decision. So he's kind of put it back on the players. But I mean, you've been saying for a while, haven't you, that the players are in a way not quite mature enough to do that. That they need strong guidance.
No, I mean, we said this on an earlier podcast, isn't it? I mean, the professional cricketers are mostly, not all, but mostly man-childs, whatever the plural that is.
Were you one, Yoz?
Yeah, of course I was. I mean, but I know it's another era. But yeah, absolutely. We didn't know anything about real life, and you just kind of went with the flow, and you never thought about the consequences. You're detached from the real world as a professional sportsman most of the time.
Do you think that's changed a bit though with social media? I know we've had those social media clips involving Ben Duckett. Do you not think that's changed a bit?
Zach Crawley went off social media because it was so ugly towards him. Maybe a bit, but I still think you're detached from reality because everything's done for you, isn't it? Everything's on a plate. And I think we went through that thing before. Have you ever wallpapered a bedroom? Have you fed tea to 3 kids for the whole weekend? I mean, most players won't have experienced the kind of normal life challenges that people who don't play professional sport have.
Have you ever turned up on time for a final?
Yeah,
sorts
whatever.
of things. Yeah.
So I mean, you just don't grow up as quickly, I don't think, and therefore I think you do need guidance. And I think if you have a nice, straightforward rule, right? No drinking during a Test match. After the game, yeah, okay, fine, but during a Test match, no drinking, and be in bed by 12. One of my former captains, Middlesex, was very adamant on that actually, and I thought it was good, and I think we all abided by it. So I'm sorry that curfews are such a sort of bad, dirty word, but I think they're quite important actually.
Matt, when you were playing Test cricket, did you ever have a drink during a game? And were you always in bed by midnight?
Oh my God.
This feels loaded.
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm assuming as a top professional, you've never had a drink and you were always in bed by midnight.
Absolutely. I mean, we had some days in the field where the one thing you wanted to do was just get back to the hotel and have a glass of wine. Broady and I used to, we didn't room together, but if we were fielding, we'd sort of have room service together, and we'd have a glass of red wine or something. We'd say, we've got to lubricate the joints, lads. You've got to. You're away a lot. You're in hotels a lot. There's the stress and the intensity and everything else. Now, I'm not promoting, seeking alcohol to kind of get rid of your demons, but I think because you're away so much, I think what's really important is you understand as an individual. And why I like what Root said is that we're not talking about an academy team or a county cricket team with young players, coming from school onto a county professional staff. You're talking about the England cricket team. Now, yes, I take your point, Yoz. Absolutely. They live in a bubble. Of course they do. But you've still got to man up, right? You've still got to you're an England cricketer, and you've got to be able to make decisions. Now, one of the best moves, Andrew, and we had a chat about leadership. And I said then that Strauss was the best captain I played under. And one of the first things he did when he came in was he gave accountability to the individuals in the team. And the minute that was given to us, and it was like, right, guys, what do you want to do? How do you want to play as an England cricketer? When you make the decision to say, we think we shouldn't drink during a test match, and we as players think you should be in bed by midnight, that decision is so much more powerful. And the risk of it being broken is lessened immediately because the players have made the decision. And you're looking at your mate in the dressing room and you're going, yeah, this is what I want to sign up to. This is how we should behave. If you're being told it by Rob Key or, someone else who's not even in the dressing room, it's kind of like, really, mate? Now, I don't expect these England players are going to drink during a test match, or there are a number of things that have happened that have not looked good. Absolutely. But I think Root coming in and giving the accountability, responsibility and trust. Now, whether he gets bitten remains to be seen, but he's made the decision to say, we have to trust these players as England cricketers to be in my dressing room. You have to be mature enough, good enough and responsible enough to make the right choices to continue playing cricket for England. And I agree with him.
Well, let's hope the message got through, because Stokes, one of the things he said was after his retirement was the communication was poor. If there's anything that he wanted to do better in his future, it was the communication. So hopefully the message got through. I just want to mention one thing to you, by the way. The origin of the sprinkler dance in 2010-11, I thought that might make you laugh. Word has it, and Graham Swan, who told us that the origin of the sprinkler dance was in a nightclub at 3 a.m. in the morning after a warm-up match in that 2010-11 series in Australia, right?
No comment.
It's on record, mate. You can't avoid it. And you were there, I'm sure.
What I will say is that 2010-11 series that we won, that was one of the best tours off the pitch as well as on the pitch that I was ever part of, and it was one of the reasons we did well. The difference was we were a very good team with players that were very experienced and knew exactly what they needed to perform first and foremost, because that's what it's about, right? It's about performance. That's it, and we were winning. So suddenly when you go for a few beers after you've just beaten Australia in Australia, that test match, everyone's celebrating with you. We were in the bars with the Barmy Army, pouring them pints to say, thanks so much for traveling across the world to come and support us. I mean, but we were performing on the pitch and we worked very, very hard. We were a very fit team. And I think that's the important thing. Is ultimately
that's the key. That's absolutely the key.
It comes down to performance. That's
totally.
it.
Should we just wrap up, Yoz, with just a quick chat about the makeup of the England side? Should we do that?
Well, yes, sure. Okay.
Because I think we know roughly what the England team is going to be, namely Duckett, Gay, Cox, Root, Brooke, Lawrence, Smith, and then 4 quick bowlers from 7, but I presume if they all pull up okay after the 100, Archer, Atkinson, Tongue and Robinson, Carter, Cook and Fisher are also in the squad. I think of someone like Sam Cook. Actually, Headingley pitches in the past when you played the old 1980s, you'd have someone like Sam Cook, wouldn't you? Probably in your side for Headingley. We used to have courses bowlers. But anyway, so I think that's probably going to be it. Archer, Atkinson, Tongue and Robinson. So Lawrence to bowl a bit of spin, Root to bowl a bit of spin, and 4 quick bowlers. And what we see there, I think, is that Ben Stokes' retirement is a problem for Shoaib Bashir, who played in the last Test match. It's not easy to see how he gets in. Teams these days, they like to have 4 fast bowlers. So what do we make of that England lineup?
I think I would say that I wouldn't have thought Bashir would have got in even if Stokes had played, actually, because Pakistanis famously are pretty good at playing spin. And he hasn't exactly ripped up trees, Bashir.
So hold on a second with that, Yoz. Hold on a second. So if Stokes had played, so what are you saying? England would have played 5 fast bowlers then?
Well, yes, because...
Or an extra batter?
Particularly at Headingley now, it doesn't really turn. It goes through. It's pacey. Look at Mark Wood bowling at Headingley in 2023. Chris Wokes was man of the match there as well. And I think it'll be trial by pace against Pakistan, who, even Babar Azam, a fine player, looks a bit suspect against fast short pitch bowling. He may have improved it slightly, but, that's the area that they will target these players, because they're not reared on bouncy pitches. And actually, Headingley now is quite bouncy. So I think that attack England have picked, if it's as you say it is quite a pretty pacey attack, and that's what they'll focus on.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this spin conundrum is a real challenge for England. And if you had a frontline spinner, a genuine wicket taker, so let's say if it was a Graham Swan, for instance, right? You're always finding a place for him. Now with Stokes going out, it makes it even more difficult when it's a borderline decision, because you've now got to find two players to fit one spot. And it just shows you the importance of an all-rounder in any test match team. The great all-rounders are gold dust when it comes to selecting a team, because without it, your balance, it's really difficult to get the right balance. I think I agree with the selection with regards to seamers at Headingley. It does go through now, and it's always been renowned. When we turned up to Headingley, the batsmen would practice and practice and practice not driving. Because driving, you have to wait till the ball is so full and under your eyes to try and hit a cover. Particularly straight drive, different. But that cover drive, that sort of slightly on the up cover drive, you were like, you have to put that away. You cannot. And actually, we had a rule in that dressing room. If you got out playing that shot at Headingley, everyone in the dressing room would be swearing at
50
you,
press
because
ups.
it was just right. It was just so we just knew that. So for England's bowling, yes, it will go through. Yes, it will be good pace and bounce. But I hope they don't get dragged into that sort of shorter stuff and they keep bowling that slightly fuller length, because that's where they're going to genuinely nick off. So someone like an Ollie Robinson, his natural length will be, I think, very, very difficult to play at Headingley. So you look at that and you go, okay, and what are the spin stats? I don't actually know what the stats are for a spinner at Headingley, but my recollection is they don't do very well.
Monty took a 5 for there once, I remember, actually, but in the main, you're right. They don't get much of a bowl, do they? I mean, because normally, it's quite a lot of the time it's overcast or, a little bit murky, and so seamers just love it. I mean, it doesn't nip around as much as it used to. It's a lovely surface now. But there's that bounce and carry, especially from the Kirkstall Lane end, bowling down the hill. It really does carry through. As you say, if you get the length right, the edges carry beautifully. So it's a great place to bowl.
I think that's what it's. And I think for a bowler, even if it's swinging and moving around, if there's no pace in the wicket, and there's no carry, that's the thing that just completely destroys a bowler's mentality. Oh my God, even if you get the edge and it drops short of second slip, even if it's not swinging or doing too much, if there's still bounce and there's still carry, you're always in the game as a bowler, because you can bowl that fuller length and you end up still catching the edge. So I think Headingley now, the Headingley wicket is a really good cricket wicket, and if you bat well, you can score runs because the ball's coming onto you. If you bowl well, you can take wickets. So that's ultimately what you want from a good test.
I completely agree. I mean, England, I think, could be a low-scoring game because the England top three, as we said, very inexperienced, and Dan Lawrence at 6 as well. If their Pakistan seamers, hit their straps, then they could be challenging, and obviously England's seam attack as well. So let's just finish by saying, you mentioned Matt there about Joe Root as captain and his record. I noticed as a batter, as captain, he's averaging 46. Whereas his career average is 50.5. So he's slightly less prolific as a batter, as captain. And maybe that's something he needs to just remember, to focus on his batting a bit more and on his captaincy a bit less, if that makes sense. In other words, not giving everything to the team when he's batting, maybe being a little bit more selfish, perhaps, because they need that output from him. And he is now 1,827 runs, I think it is, behind Sachin Tendulkar in second spot on the all-time Test run scorers list. So you'd say, he averages 50 per innings, 100 per Test. That's going to take him about 18 tests. So, he's inching closer. So with that in mind, and also given it's the 100th anniversary of Jack Hobbs, the leading run scorer of all time with 61,000 first-class runs, I haven't swallowed a stats book, but, it's a phenomenal record. And David Frith saying that actually Jack Hobbs was a better player than Dob Bradman. Nimble and resolute in defence, he was also quick to punish the wayward delivery, punching short balls between the cluster of close fielders towards the leg side and driving past mid-on, placing the ball with elegant precision wide of point. It was a flawless innings of controlled aggression, superb shot selection, meticulous defence, neat placement and great running. This was the master at work, and he was known, Jack Hobbs, as the master.
Yeah.
Was that, in your book, was that right?
That's right. Yeah, he was so highly regarded. Cricket lovers of today should not lose sight of the fact that Hobbs was as close to the perfect batsman as you could get. Immediately they'll think, what about Bradman? What about Bradman? Yeah, well, Don was the greatest run scorer of all time. But he had one little problem, and that was sticky wickets. He condemned them. He thought it was wrong. He didn't handle himself all that well on them. The two things are connected. Jack Hobbs, I won't say he relished bad wickets, but he sort of shrugged and bat on, and he was a master. So was Sutcliffe.
We don't want to compare eras, but who do we think is the best player that we've seen, batter-wise? Who's the best batter we've seen? Matt?
Oh, thanks for making me go first. It's one of those questions, isn't it? Because there're just so many you can think. I think about, and there were times you have the best seat as a wicketkeeper. You have the best seat in the house as well. Standing behind Sachin Tendulkar when he's in full flow. Ricky Ponting, Caliph, but even people like Sangakkara. I mean, Kumar Sangakkara was an unbelievable batsman. Like, he was incredible. But the one for me, the standout, was always Brian Lara. That man was just a genius. And whether it was pace, whether it was spin, you ask Murali, and when he's running down the wicket and flicking Murali through mid-wicket on a ragging, pitch in Gaul, getting double hundreds. I mean, that is a very special thing. But I think the standout for me with Lara is the fact that he broke the record not once, but twice. Score 400 runs in a Test innings, to score 501 in a first-class innings. I mean, that's ridiculous. And particularly the 400, I remember watching it. When he walked out to bat, he was on 20, and people were talking about him going for the record. It was almost like, well, he will get it. And I remember watching it thinking, how ludicrous. Come on, England can nick him off here for 30. We're in the game. And, day and a half later, he's, sure enough, he's gone 400, breaks the record for the second time. An incredible, incredible batsman. So there you go, Brian Lara.
Very good. Simon?
Well, in a way, hard to argue with that. I'm going to go slightly romantic choice right back to when I started watching cricket. I'm going to go for Viv. Just wonderful presence at the crease, dominating player, sort of dragged that West Indies team forward as well. Just magnificent to watch. The power, the aggression. It was just so intimidating to watch. So I'm going to go Viv. I know he averages 50 in Test cricket. I know there are a few who average more. I know that there are lots of fabulous players, but that's what I'm going to say. What about you, Yoz?
Well, I like your argument about Lara, Matt, and I was at his when he broke the record the first time, 375 in Antigua Recreation Ground, and I remember travelling to the game each day, and he went on the first day he was, I don't know, 120 not out, and we thought, well, he's going to break the record kind of thing, and then the next day was 320 not out overnight, and we thought, well, he's going to do it, and it just felt inevitable because we couldn't see how anyone was going to get him out, and he wasn't going to make a mistake. And I just remember, actually, I think Bill Frindle was still the scorer of the BBC at the time and did his wagon wheel of that innings, 375. And it wasn't just all smashing the ball. It was, beautiful glide shots and sweeps and drives and so on, and, cuts. It was a beautiful exhibition of all-round skill. And his wagon wheel looked like a plate of spaghetti. It was just lines all over the round field. It was amazing innings. So absolutely, Lara is one. I'm going to go with Viv Richards as well, partly because I played against him, and it was just so intimidating to see him come out. Even before you even started to bowl, your legs turned to jelly, and you just knew that you were going to get taken apart, sort of thing. And he did it with this sort of bit of a swagger and this sort of style. His cap slightly askew, and almost as if he walked out as if he was half asleep almost. But then as soon as he saw the ball come down, he woke up. And actually just looked up his strike rate today. Of all the great players, the top 20 averaging 50 plus, his strike rate is by far the best, 86 per 100 balls. Most of the other, absolutely insatiable run makers, their strike rate was 40 or 50, the Tendulkars and so on. Viv's was 86. And the only person in that list of high averages who's anywhere near, funnily enough, is Harry Brook, whose strike rate is 83. But it shows how amazing Viv was, that his strike rate was even higher than Harry Brook. We think of Harry Brook as this expansive, explosive batter, but Viv's strike rate was even higher than that. And he played obviously for best part of 20 years. And it's this week where he made that 291 against England at the Oval in 76. And he made 829 runs in that series in 4 games as well. So he just about gets my vote. I mean, we should have, the Indian fan will all be outraged that we haven't mentioned Sachin and we haven't mentioned Virat and so on. But I don't know. Viv just had something extra for me.
Yeah, he seemed like a player kind of ahead of his time. I think that was it for me. And of course, first impressions make a big impression, don't you? So he was the player that I sort of grew up with, teenage years. So you are quite impressionable. But what a fantastic player.
Yeah, but Lara equally good. And funnily enough, I was chatting with somebody the other day who's a high statistician in the game, and he said he's telling both his kids to bat left-handed because left-handers have an advantage, and Lara definitely capitalised on that, and Sangakkara probably did as well. So be left-handed in the future, because it seems like you can score runs as a left-hander. Listen, we better draw it to a close because we're almost running out of time here. So, Matt, you'll be with us certainly remotely over the Test match. Simon, you're going to be there. I'm going to be there. We'll do a daily on the Pakistan Test matches, won't we?
We will indeed. Yeah. So we'll be back with you on Wednesday at the close of play. Yeah, fascinating Test series ahead, really. Now, how's it going to go for... Well, it's back to the future for both sides. I think Matt was talking about this off air. That Pakistan have gone back to Babar Azam as captain. England have gone back to Joe Root. So we'll review the first day on Wednesday. Thanks very much for listening, and goodbye for now.